Talking about concerning topics, we continue to see efforts across the country to literally erode parental rights. I think it's probably fair to say that that is coming especially from the T portion, if you will, of the LGBT agenda. Well, earlier this week, Tony Perkins, our president, discussed a disturbing case coming out of Montana where a teenager with gender confusion was literally taken from her home despite her parents' protests about that. And then we also saw recently in New York State, a school district there hid a young girl's social transition at school from her mother and then repeatedly lied to the mother about her child's social struggles and her deteriorating mental health. Now, these are just two of many, many examples that are taking place throughout the country. And in response, the Child and Parental Rights Campaign has recently released a powerful resource. This resource is for individuals and churches, whomever, so that they can fully understand both what is at stake and how to respond effectively to this transgender issue that is attacking our families, our churches, and biblical truth itself. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Vernadette Broyles. She is the president and the general counsel of the Child and Parental Rights Campaign. Vernadette, welcome to Washington Watch. Always great to see you.
Always great to see you, Jody. It's been too long. It's wonderful to be with you.
Well, thank you so much. And look, I don't know of anyone who has been tracking this, staying on top of this as much as you have. You've been doing this for years and years, literally on the tip of the spear on this issue. And while we continue to see so many shocking occasions that are happening throughout the country, including the two that I just mentioned in Montana and New York State, can you share with us some of the recent cases that your law firm has filed in behalf of parents?
Yeah, I'm sad to report that we have 6 cases right now, and we're about to file one more that have shockingly similar patterns. And the case that you just mentioned that was filed by our ally, Lions Family Freedom, and the common theme is this. A child, more often than not, a girl in middle school or in high school, right around puberty or thereafter, begins to express gender confusion, some sort of displeasure with her sex or his sex, and an interest or fascination with being treated as the opposite sex. And then immediately, the school officials begin to affirm and endorse this imagined identity and hide it from the parents, and oftentimes lie to the parents or even over the objection of the parents, continue to socially transition the child to be treated as the opposite sex. So our case in Virginia where this happened, the young lady who is now the subject of a piece of legislation, she left home, ran away, and was then sex trafficked in two or three different states after being endorsed and affirmed there in school, and the parents completely kept in the dark. And so these situations are leading to incredibly tragic situations.
You know, Vernadette, one of the things that is, there's so many disturbing aspects of this whole issue. In the first place, how in the world are we even here dealing with these types of issues? But the reality is we are here. So in the midst of that reality, one of the huge concerns to me is the evidently the attitude, the growing sentiment, if you will, that once a child expresses gender confusion, the government seems to think they know what's best for the child and not the parents. Your thoughts on this?
That is exactly the sentiment that we're seeing. In fact, that's what is at its core. And unfortunately now in schools literally around the country as a result of what the Biden administration and the Obama administration had done, some of the guidance that they had issued into schools. That is exactly what school officials are communicating and acting upon, and even now Child Protective Services, that if a parent wants to uphold biological reality for their child, biblical truth, biblical the biblical created order as between the sexes, that more and more parents are being treated as if they are abusive of their child. And so schools officials are feeling that somehow they have the authority to override parental authority when a child expresses gender confusion. And increasingly beginning to see child protective services, like the case that you've discussed, Jody, taking custody of a child. We ourselves had a case like that in our office where this happened in Red State, Arizona. At least used to be Red State, Arizona. And the parents lost custody there as well. Very, very similar. So this is something where our institutions have become ideologically captured. And that is why the church has no choice. It has to stand in the gap to uphold biological truth, fact, and to stand with parents that are otherwise sitting ducks for the wolves.
Absolutely. You know, it's biblical truth, it's scientific truth, it is just obvious. There are two genders. There's male and female. And now all of this confusion is just unbelievable. You've mentioned two things, but I want to hit on both of them in your last answer there. But you mentioned several times now the role that schools are having in all of this. Is it fair to say that schools are somehow now the driving force behind this gender confusion? What are you seeing that's happening in schools to promote this trans social contagion that frankly is spreading like wildfire? And why is it spreading so?
So, Jody, where most often it comes, the source is the internet and social media. But then the venous system through which the poison that came up from social media at times, or sometimes peer pressure or books, but through one of these mediums, then the venous system that has spread it like wildfire around our country, is the school system, particularly the public school system. And what thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of schools are now teaching our children is that they can be born in the wrong body. Well, what in the blazes does that mean to begin with? That's a metaphysical assertion. That's certainly not biological fact, but nevertheless, that's what they're promoting to our children in schools, and in ways that parents don't even understand or don't even know that it's going on. And then once they will have secret closets in school. They can be changing the name at school, and then when they talk to the parents, using their legal name and biological pronouns in order to deceive parents about what's happening at school. This is reprehensible.
It's so frightening. All right, let's transition, Vernadette, in this conversation. The alarming reality of what's going on, I think many people are becoming more and more aware of. But the question ultimately lands on, what do we do about this? How do we stand in the gap for these children, for these parents? How do we make a difference? And your organization recently came out with a response guide to counter all of this. And I am grateful that I received one of these myself. But it's a powerful resource to help individuals, to help churches, to help other organizations to first of all, fully understand what's at stake, but then how to respond effectively to this issue. Tell us about the resource that you've put together.
Absolutely. So, Jody, first of all, it starts with a fundamental message, and that's a message to our pastors, our faith leaders, and that is, wake up. Wake up. We are in an extra moment. There has been a decree of death issued against that which you hold dear, the people entrusted to you, and that which you hold dear, which is truth itself, biological and biblical truth itself. It is what's at stake, Jody, and those who are listening, pastors, leaders who are listening, what is at stake is far, far greater than just several 100,000 or a million or whatever it is, something the number is, of young people who are gender confused. And that's tragic enough because when they go down this path, they mutilate their bodies, they are become sterilized by the treatments that they're given, and their mental health absolutely descends. And they very often turn away from God. But if that is not alarming enough itself for you, understand that what is at stake is every other institution is captured. And so the goal is to force anyone or any entity that does not believe this ideology to be marginalized, silenced, and punished in one way or the other. Anyone who does not go with the government-sanctioned view of the human creation, contrary to the word of God, the goal is to silence and punish all of us. So do not think that you'll be safe behind the walls of your church if you do not speak out now against this thing in our culture and to stand with the young people, the parents, and the families that are in the crosshairs. One last thing, Helen. The nuclear family is being directly targeted by this agenda to be deconstructed and destroyed. So wake up and speak out now.
Absolutely. And before we go, we've only got a couple of minutes left. I want you to share where people can get this resource. But real quickly, what do parents need to know when they're dealing with school officials? What do parents need to know when they're dealing with child protective services, that type of thing? What would you say to parents who are facing this?
So very quickly, parents need to understand you need to assert your parental authority before you lose it. You need to put in writing and communicate to school officials what they are, that you are not in agreement with your child being treated as anything other than their biological sex. And in the event that your child begins to express any gender confusion, they are to immediately to contact you and put that in writing and put them on notice. With regards to child protective services, the moment that you suspect CPS will be involved, immediately find yourself an attorney. When CPS and remove your child from the toxic situation. I'm talking if it's a school, move out of that school. Because once CPS actually gets involved, it is a very difficult situation. Arm yourself with an attorney. And if they show up to your home without a warrant or without documentation that allows them to come in, then do not allow them into your home without the proper authority to do so, without a warrant, and get your attorney involved. And so let me just say one last minute we have left about the church, about churches. This guide will help arm churches with an understanding. Here's how to order it. Go ahead and click on that or the link. How do you protect your own church, your governing documents, your church policies, your religious liberties? How do you assert that? How do you minister to gender confused young people? How do you minister to families who have gender confused children? What does the word of God say about these things? What are the medical information? What is happening in schools that is accurate? That is what's in this guide and fund.
Vernadette Broyles, thank you so much from Child and Parental Rights Campaign. Always great to talk with you. Thank you for your role in this critically important issue.